Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. We got another exciting episode for you guys today. And if you guys are tuning in this morning, do me a favor and let us know where you're from. Let's welcome our next guest. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of who she is, but she's a very exciting individual, very amazing, and you guys are going to see. Her name is MARI. MARI is just a regular just a regular person who suffered from anxiety and depression and tried very hard to overcome it with various types of treatments. However, everything changed for her when she discovered alternative energy healing. This transformational discovery not only altered her life's trajectory, but also ignited a newfound sense of purpose and joy that she experiences every day. You know what? I've talked to her. Her story is truly, truly amazing. And without further ado, I'm going to bring her up here and we're going to get into this conversation. And just for the record, this is for educational purposes only. And if you guys are a first timer enjoying these conversations, do me a favor. Go to the YouTube channel. If you would like to support it, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, without further ado, I'm going to bring my next guest up. Hi, Mari.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So yeah, before we jump into your story, tell people where you're from and a little bit about your journey, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm from New York City. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and it's everything that you think it is. It's as loud and as noisy and crazy as you think it is, but I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I am an intuitive energy healing practitioner. So what I mean by that is I don't like a term energy healer because I'm not the one doing the healing when I'm working with my clients. Mm-hmm. I am helping my clients heal. Our bodies have an innate ability to heal because when you scrape your knee or you cut your finger, you don't need to tell your finger, well, now you're going to start healing. Now you're going to generate new skin and now you're going to create a scab and then the scab. Your body knows how to do this. We all have this innate ability, but sometimes we have blocks, energetic blocks that prevent us from healing quickly or healing fully. But we all know what to do. And what I help people is to unblock that ability so that their bodies can heal fully and completely from whatever it is, from whatever is ailing them, whether it's physical or it's emotional or it's mental or anything at all, really. Any and all areas in life where you feel you could be doing better, that you blocked in some way. Okay. You may not even know that you blocked. A lot of people don't even know that it's a thing. I was recently working with someone a wonderful lady, but she felt stuck in her job. She felt stuck. She says, I don't know. The job pays the bills. I don't know what to do to change. I'm too scared to change. So we worked on unblocking whatever was holding her back. And she applied and she felt better and she felt empowered and she sent out her resumes and now she has a job she loves. She didn't know there was a block. She wasn't aware.
That is truly amazing because there was times where in my life and then when I started doing research, it was like, hey, you have a blockage and everything. So just like yourself, I had to do some research, figured out, and I started teaching myself about the chakras. Right? Yeah. These different chakras and how to unlock them and dive deeper into them and have a better understanding of who I was and what I was becoming. And I began this path, as we all know. Now, reading, like I said, we've talked and I've read your bio and I was just going, wow, you used to suffer from anxiety and depression, right? And that's how you got into this work. Now let's go back to the beginning when you were suffering with the anxiety and the depression. What was the telltale signs?
Well, I've suffered from anxiety and depression for over 20 years, so it was a really long time. And what I had was what's called a functional depression, meaning I was able to get up in the morning and I was able to go to work and I was able to, put dinner on the table and do all these things that I needed to do. But at night, I would wake up at 3 a.m. and not sleep at all. And I had all these thoughts like, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? What's wrong with me? Seemingly, I have everything that I wanted. People, if they look from outside in and they look at my life and they think she has everything, I wish I had, what she has. She has a
Mhm.
job, she has a family, she has people and friends who love her. And meanwhile, I was so miserable. I was thinking to myself, why do I bother waking up? Why am I even alive? This makes no sense. If I'm going to spend my life and I'm going to spend the rest of my days feeling this heaviness and the sadness and this burden, I don't know how, I don't know how to handle that. I really didn't. And then I started having anxiety attacks, which were crippling, and they would come out seemingly from nowhere. And I would get paralyzed, and I would get sweaty and hot and cold and start shaking, and I couldn't speak. Most importantly, my throat would close up and I wouldn't be able to get a sound out. And it was very, very scary, because a lot of times when you have those, and again, this is for educational purposes only. I'm not diagnosing, or I'm not a medical professional. But a lot of times when people have anxiety or panic attacks, they don't know that this is what's happening. They
Right.
think that something's very, very wrong with them. They think that, oh my goodness, am I dying? Am I having a heart attack? Because you get tunnel vision and everything gets dark and you can't speak and you're shaking and you're sweating. So anywho, it was pretty bad. It was very, very bad for a very long time. And like I said, I had a family, and I had children, and I was afraid of how it's affecting them. Even though I am trying to be the best mom I can, if I'm spending my nights thinking that what's the point of it all, then I'm probably not being as present as I wanted to be for them during the
Right.
day. And so I tried everything. I tried, medication. I tried meditation. I tried prescription medicine. I went to a doctor. I was prescribed antidepressants. Nothing wrong with that. If that what helps, by all means, go that route. But nothing really helped 100%. I cleaned up my diet. I ate no processed foods. I ate very clean, as they say, no sugar,
Mm.
no processed foods. I worked out like a lunatic. I went to boxing, which I love. I did yoga on the other spectrum of, more calming, of bringing yourself into, that relaxed state. And again, everything worked a little bit, but nothing really made a dramatic difference. Nothing was the last, piece of the puzzle, until my friend told me about energy healing. And I was so skeptical. I was like, what are you talking about? It sounds like woo woo. What do we, no, no, no. And she says, just, you tried everything else. What do you have to lose? Just go once. That's all you have to do. Just give it a try. And I said, okay, I did try everything else. So I had an energy healing session, and it was mind blowing. And obviously that did not cure my depression in one day. It doesn't work like that. It's not a magic key, but it gave me a completely different perspective. It cleared out a lot of gunk, emotional gunk that I've
Yeah.
accumulated.
Okay.
And that showed me what's possible. That showed me how I could feel and how life can be. And so I made it my life purpose to bring this to other people, to educate people and show them that there are other ways, of complementary ways to traditional medicine, but there are additional things that you could be doing if you're not feeling how you want to feel. It doesn't have to be depression. If you know you're not feeling your best, if you know that something is lacking, if you know something is not where you want it to be, why not try it? What do you have to lose? Just like my friend said, you tried everything else, you know?
That's
And
very true.
ironically, or not so ironically, it's probably the wrong word to use, but in my case, what I was dealing with, I wasn't, well, I was depressed, but I wasn't depressed. I was grieving. What was wrong
Mhm.
with me was immense grief that I was feeling, which
Okay.
brings me to something I really want to address, that most people think, and I know that your podcast is about grief. Most people think that grief is due to loss of a loved one, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of times it is. There's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times it's grieving a relationship. A lot of times it's grieving a dream that never realized,
Mm.
grieving a life that you thought you would have, and possibilities that you would have, thinking that it will never be available to you. And the grief we experience is so immense that it turns into depression, that it what's the word I'm looking, represents itself in depressed like state. And a lot of times it's not even depression what we're feeling. It could be fatigue, chronic fatigue. You're always tired. You're
Right.
always tired. Why are
Right.
you always tired? Because your body is experiencing an imbalance in an energetic state due to that grief. So your flow of energy, just like you said, chakras, right? Tradition. I'm rambling, so stop me anytime.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. I'm
Traditional,
loving
yeah,
this.
traditional Chinese medicine. Okay, let's look at acupuncture. Everyone at least had it once or at least knows what it is, right?
Mhm.
What is acupuncture? Just like we have blood vessels in our system that we all know we have that bring blood to every vessel, every muscle, every cell in our body, we have energetic highways that do the same thing, that
Right.
carry energy. They're called meridians. Okay. When you go to an acupuncture treatment, what they do is, let's say you come in and you say, Doc, I have a headache. And they take a tiny needle and they put it in your foot. And you're thinking to yourself, but I said I have a headache. Why are you putting that in my foot? Thinking it's going to be like they're going to place it somewhere on your head, right?
Right.
No.
Right.
The reason they place it where they place it is because that's the place where these meridians have blocked energy that
Mm.
causes the symptoms of your headache. It's the same exact thing. We have an energetic body. We have a physical body, but we have an energetic body, right?
Right.
And if your energy gets clogged, you're not going to function at your best. You will develop at some point physical representation of that block energy. A lot of times it translates to pain. A lot of times it translates to emotional issues, mental issues, name it. I could name a million things that it could cause. So you would be feeling fatigued, or me feeling fatigued and not sleeping at night was a symptom of grief. And another thing that changes in appetite, persistent headaches. Persistent headaches. You go to a doctor and you say, Doctor, I have persistent headaches. They will try to evaluate what's wrong with you from a, traditional perspective, from looking at your body, right? But your
Right.
persistent headaches could be caused by grief. They could be caused of all these emotions that you did not process and that are lodged in you. So what I do as a practitioner to help people, we identify these and we get them out. Sometimes I call myself an emotional plumber, and sometimes people like it and sometimes they don't. I think it's a very appropriate description of what I do. I
Uh-huh.
get the gunk out. I get the
Yeah.
gunk out. And so
Yes.
then you could heal, and then you could be your best, and you could feel your best, and you could function at your best. Because nobody wants to be miserable. We don't
It's
want to be
very true.
miserable. We all want to
And
be happy. But a lot of times people don't know how. They don't know how to get to that point.
well, it's identifying the grief that you're going through as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to acknowledge one of our listeners right now, Lakaya. Hello, good morning to you. Thank you for tuning in this morning. And yeah, let us know where you're from, and please let us know what you think about the conversation that we have. And if you have any questions, put them up there. We'll be more
Mhm.
than happy to answer them. But yes, to go back to what you're saying, um, it's identifying the grief that you're going through, right? Because we can have so many different types of things that we go through. I have had to educate myself on those things, and I had one time I had an anxiety attack, and I couldn't understand why, right? Because
Mhm.
I always considered myself a very mentally strong individual, especially the life that I've lived. I had to be strong in a lot of ways. I had to suppress a lot of emotions, a lot of things that I've seen, had to go through. I carried those things with me.
Mhm.
And so, there was one time where I believe the situation, it was a crazy situation. I was in the midst of about ready to go fisticuffs with someone. And for some odd reason, I began to think to myself, what if this guy whoops my butt? And I got, I mean, and it sounds kind of crazy, right? But you have to understand from a man's perspective, the masculine nature, right? We're more aggressive in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. And so I can only speak from the situation that it came about. And I started, and this thing came across me, and I began to get nervous, and I began to, like breathe heavy, and I'm trying to contain it. And I'm like, I don't want to do it, right? First time in my life this has ever happened to me. I was like, I don't want to do it. What does the guy beast me? Because it's like, three times my size, and I've never had that happen before. Or I can go through another situation where the first time I've ever done guest speaking, right? I'm a strong introvert. I've never done guest speaking before. So to have someone say, hey, I want to have you come in and speak to my students and things like that. I'm like, oh my God, what if I fail? And, what if I make a fool of myself? And, and I just remember about 15 minutes before I went in to go speak, I was just like, sweating and all of these different things. And it was very eye-opening, because it did force me to educate myself on that, hey, all of these different things that you've been carrying, you're grieving. That this is where the anxiety and all of these different things, and the tiredness, as you mentioned before. I didn't even know what depression was. These things were never taught to me, right? And so I didn't realize that I was suffering from depression, and all of these just all of these combination of things. And it wasn't until I had that aha moment where I started reading and I started educating myself, and I went, okay. Now, I've always known about pressure points, and it's a great thing that you talked about acupuncture and things like that, right? Because then I began to educate myself on the different spots of these pressure points and how it affected the body and things like that. So I was able tapping, right?
Yes, amazing.
I started doing that before I even understood what it was. I was like, okay, this is what I'm thinking right now, and I would tap a different point in my body, and it would relieve that sensation of the anxiety, bottom of the bottom of your feet, the top of your feet, right? Your foreheads and things like that. And I started just doing what came naturally to me. And it wasn't until I talked with a colleague of mine, and she is a tapping specialist. And I told her, I was like, I started doing these, and she started laughing, and she goes, Tony, that's called tapping. And I was like, what in the world? So then she began to educate me a lot more on those things. I was like, oh my God. She was like, yeah, you're doing what your body is asking you to do.
Asking you to do.
And you're following there instead of denying yourself, the path that is taking you on, you're actually following it. So I understand when you say, hey, unlocking all of these different things that could be blocking you. I'm right there with you. There's chakras. I started learning about those things, right? As you can tell, I started wearing certain beads, and the energy that comes, right? Things that people don't even think about is what I started following, and it became natural. And people's like, yeah, the tiger's eye, this is what it's for, and these beads are what these are for. And I was like, really? I just like them, yeah. But I did
Yeah, but it made me feel good. Yes.
It made me feel right, and the way that my body started to not react but to respond.
Yes.
To certain situations, I no longer became overly anxious. Now I became excited. Now when I go out and do guest speaking, I'm like, let's do it, right? For so to speak, right? Because I'm around people that are specialists in their fields, like yourself, right? And I used to tell myself in the beginning, man, these people, I don't hold a candle to the knowledge that they have, and I was so afraid of embarrassing myself, and people get off and go, this guy don't know what he's talking about, and things like that. But then I started thinking to myself,
syndrome, right?
Yeah, imposter syndrome, right? You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know what that was neither. I never knew what that was, right? I just knew the way that it made me feel in certain situations. And once I began to allow myself to go with the flow, everything became more natural. Then I started going, it's going to be a great conversation. This is an opportunity for me to learn. And maybe share different perspectives. And so here we are today, right? I'm talking to you, and you're a specialist in this field, and I'm like, wow, I get it. So
I always tell people, I ask people to keep an open mind
Mhm.
because I was trained very early on that anything can cause anything. You have to be open-minded. You may encounter something that you did not expect, and it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that you did not realize that these things could be connected. So the one of the methods that I use, it's absolutely incredible, and I highly recommend anyone just read up. There's a book that's written. I mean, I'm certified in the modality. I'm able to work with clients, but if somebody
Mhm.
wants to learn for themselves and work on themselves and their family, they don't need certification. They could just read a book. The book
Right.
is called The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. This guy is incredible. And so the premise of the modality, the emotion code. Now there's the emotion code, there's also a body code, and there's a new one that's coming out tomorrow that's called the belief code. Okay, that deals with limiting beliefs. But let's go back to the emotion code. The premise of it is simplistically, every emotion you have ever felt and experienced in your life, no matter how big and small, it doesn't have to be life altering. It could be something very small, like a fear, like you
Mhm.
felt at five, when you were 5 years old and you woke up in the middle of the night and you heard a noise in the darkened hallway and you thought somebody broke in, and it was just your mom getting up to get a glass of water. You didn't
Right.
know that at the time. So your initial reaction was fear. That fear could get lodged in your energetic system. And what that it creates a blockage, right? Energetic blockage, sewer. It creates
Mhm.
that a little like it's this, they say it's the size of an orange, of a small orange, that vibrational energy that clogs your
Mhm.
system. So now what's going to happen is not only do you go through life accumulating all these emotions that turn into a luggage of these old emotions that no longer serve you, you don't need to carry around, but you don't know you're carrying that. So, right, you're feeling heavy because you're carrying that luggage. But also, you're more likely to feel fear because it's sitting there, because you send in that frequency of fear. It's like kind of like, a beacon. I
Right.
felt fear at five, so now I hear something. Something scared me at seven. Oh, I'm even more fearful, and it grows, and then it turns into panic, and then it turns into anxiety, and then it turns into terror, and all these horrible feelings that
Right.
started with something totally innocent. It could be something, it could be even a positive emotion. It doesn't have to be negative. You were again 5 years old and you always wanted a dog. It's just something you wanted, and your parents said, no, you could never have it. And then for your birthday, they surprised you with a puppy that you always wanted. And you're so overwhelmed. It's a positive feeling, right? You're overwhelmed with joy, but it's too much for you to handle at the time. And so that overjoy gets lodged. So now you're carrying that around, and things tend to overwhelm you a little bit. Things
Mhm.
that
Okay.
somebody else would not be reacting the same way that you do because they don't have the same experiences, right? They don't have the same. So my job as a practitioner to identify the emotion and release it. But point is, we all carry that baggage. We don't know we carry it, but we carry it from things that we had forgotten a long time ago or didn't
Right.
even remember in the first place. I promise you, if you woke up at five and you got scared because your mom got up to a glass of water, you do not remember that because it
Mhm.
wasn't, I mean, you may if it was huge enough, but
Right.
most likely you don't remember. Oh, like people don't think it's like, what was the first time that I got really scared? Oh, wait, when I was three and I was walking down the street and I let go of my mom's hand and I thought I got lost. Most people don't have that awareness of the original feelings, the original emotions. And now, and also, I want to mention that most of the methods that I use, most of techniques I use are science-based. I could explain mostly everything with science. Yes, spirituality plays a huge role, but you don't have to be a believer to
Right.
feel that to understand why these things potentially work. Okay. Some of them are really out there, but not all.
That's okay though.
It's not
That's
for
okay.
everyone. It is not for everyone.
Very
But
true.
look at this. You inherited from your ancestors your eye color, your hair color, your body type, right? The
Mhm.
way that some people, let's say you had a grandfather who had diabetes, you are more likely, doesn't mean that you're going to get it, but you're more likely to develop diabetes because you kind of inherit the genetic predisposition. Okay.
Mm. Okay.
We inherit emotions just the same way.
Oh wow.
And they get embedded in our DNA. And so now, if your grandfather experienced tremendous panic and it got lodged in his system, then your parents, whoever, whoever side grandfather it is, they inherited it. And now you, and now your children. Maybe, potentially, not everyone gets it, but most likely, yes. So now when I do the clearings, I clear it from the person that originated from, and then it trickles down all the way down to you and to your children. And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And things I find that they just blows my mind, because I have no way of knowing this information. I am not a psychic. I don't talk to dead people. I respect people who do that, but I'm not one of those.
Yes,
Okay.
those people scare me.
Scare me too a little bit, yeah, because
I'm not afraid to admit that.
Who are you really talking to? Let's get clear on who's pretending to be. Exactly. I'm not one of those. I don't do that. Don't do that. I use muscle testing, also known as applied kinesiology. This is a method that a lot of chiropractors use. The premise and the point is that your subconscious mind knows truth from false. You can't lie to it. You can't fool it. And so they test muscle strength based on questions that are being asked. So if somebody asks you to tell your name and you say your name out loud and you say, my name is Tony, your muscle will test strong because it's true. And if somebody asks you to say your name and you say, my name is Samantha, your muscle will probably test false. I'm assuming your name is not Samantha, because your name is not Samantha. The reason I say probably is because I had a case where I was working with this lovely lady whose name is Joanne. And I said, please repeat after me. My name is Joanne. And she tested strong because that was her name. And then I say, and please say now, my name is George. Me expecting that name to not be a strong, muscle testing response. And she tested strong to George. And I'm like, and she starts laughing hysterically. She says, when I was 5 years old, my cousin called me George, just some giggles. And I guess it stuck. So point is, your subconscious mind, your body knows the answer. When you ask a question that's true, you get a strong response. When you ask a question that has no answer, you get a weak response. This is how I test. And I test for emotions, and I test for the age when they occurred, and I test if they inherited, who they were inherited from, and if there's an associated life event that I need to know about. Most time we don't. But if I do, I'll test, I'll ask questions, I'll get my answers. No woo-woo involved. No, I don't put a robe, I don't burn, sage, I don't whisper anything weird. It is completely, it's like having a conversation like you and I having. This is what my sessions look like. We laugh and we talk and we get gunk out. And then people a lot of times they say, this doesn't resonate. And I said, that's okay. See, just take it with you. And then I get an email within a day or two later. Oh my God, I just know what it was about. It's like a whole, story about something that they completely forgotten about, or it was inherited. They would ask their parents or grandparents, and they was like, yeah, how'd you know about that? So we're onto something here.
Right.
We're onto something incredible.
See, I like that. And you mentioned something earlier, and it was something that about vibrations, right?
Yes.
Because it was something I started studying vibrational frequencies and how everything has a vibration to it, and then we study about Buddhist monks, and how they were able to tune their voices in to move things, right?
Yeah.
And then, like certain feelings, as you mentioned before, certain emotions and things like that also have a certain vibration to it, right? And I've been on this journey of trying to understand how to raise my vibrational frequency into the world, right? Mm-hmm. Because I want to understand. I'm a curious individual. I want to understand how we connect, not just to surrounding things, but how we connect in the universe, and how a subconscious mind travels and those frequencies, and how it is returned to us in those frequencies, and how to take it and be able to maintain. Mm-hmm. And that's been the biggest challenge for me, is to maintain those frequencies and take it and go master it. Let's up it, law of attraction, so to speak.
Yes.
Now You also said something that got my curiosity: vibrational traumas, hidden vibrational traumas in the
Mhm.
body, right? And how we unlock those. And it sounds, you've mastered this, right? You know what I'm saying? Because that it sounds like that's what you've been doing is going, okay, I see the frequencies and I see how it's inherited, not from you, but that vibration is hidden inside of your DNA. And you
Yeah,
take and you poke at it, then you unlock it.
unlock it,
So it's
get it
now
out.
released, right?
Yes.
And so and to me that is amazing because I've never really thought about that. I've always talked about generational trauma and things like that, but I've never really made the connection between the vibrational frequencies between that trauma that's inherited from other people. Because it wasn't until later on in life till I started actually acknowledging emotions,
Mhm.
right? Because for the longest time
Boys
in my
don't cry.
life, yeah,
Boys don't cry. Can't
right.
show what you feel. Can't express yourself. You have to be
Exactly.
strong. Do you
So
know
I
what
just
happens
never
when you stay
acknowledged it.
strong? Sorry. Do you know
I've
what
never
happens when
really
you
said, this is the way I feel. It wasn't until later on until I was like, you know what? I don't like the way this feels. And then I started exploring it. And then that's my main premise now when I talk to men.
Mhm.
Like, hey, you come equipped with these emotions. You are a human being. Don't
Yes.
deny yourself the parts of you that make you whole. And it took me a long time to acknowledge that
Yeah.
as well, and then being able to apply these lessons on vibration and how to honor and respect them, let them do a pass through, right?
Mhm.
Because of what I found is that it makes me feel more of my authentic self when I can be my more authentic self, you
Mhm.
know, emotions and all. So yeah, that was one of the things that you said, and I was like, man, the association between the vibrational trauma and unlocking and acknowledging,
I have
you
so
know.
much to say about what you just said. I have thoughts are like
Oh, go
flying in
ahead.
every single
Yeah,
direction. I just
please. Oh, let's touch on it. Let's touch on it. Yeah.
as far as vibrations, okay, I'll explain it in the way it was explained to me again by Dr. Bradley Nelson, who I value and respect tremendously, the writer, the creator of this methods. But if you take your hand and you put it in under a microscope and you magnify it a million times, gazillion million times, what you're going to see are atoms. That's all it is. Atoms that are vibrating, right? All the atoms vibrate.
Right.
So that's all you're going to see, just atoms. And then you take your phone, your cell phone, and you put it under the same microscope. You're going to see exactly the same thing. You're going to see the same atoms. They're vibrating differently. The density is different because what makes a cell phone is not the same what makes me a person,
Right.
but it's the same atoms. We all made out of the same atoms. The chair you sit on, the desk you sit at, the food you eat, the water you drink, it is all the same. We are all the same energy. This is why energy healing is possible because we're all part of this oneness. Okay. And this
Mhm.
is how vibrational healing is possible because we're all the same. If I'm the same as you, then all I need to know is what's wrong and how to get it out.
Right.
Right. So that's as far as vibration. Second, raising your vibration. No one's vibration is always raised at 100% because we're human and we have
Right.
human experiences. Okay. You could try and raise it, but you're never going to be people who are always high. Their vibration is probably very high because nothing gets to them. Other than that, you will always fluctuate, and that's normal and that's okay. Don't ever think, oh, I'm not feeling that my vibration is not so raised today, and don't be hard on yourself because
Right.
it's just like so. That's a little segment. I didn't mean to go on, but
No, you're
ultimately,
good. You're good. I love this
well
because,
done.
like on those people who are on a mission to raise their vibration, I think it's good for them to know that there's a fluctuation that goes along with it
Always.
and have a
And
better
always be kind to
understanding.
yourself. Always
Yeah.
be kind to yourself. Always be kind to yourself. That's the first thing you could do. Because when you're kind to yourself, you're kind to others. And that's
Mm.
how we could this is how we exist. We can't exist otherwise. Because otherwise people are just going to kill each other out, you know.
Right.
But no, there was a point I wanted to make other than the vibration. What were you saying? Oh, the generation, okay. So the emotions, yes, they could be yours, they could be inherited, but there's more than that. When your
Okay.
mom was pregnant with you, right?
Mhm.
She felt emotions. And you, as a baby in your mom's belly, you felt those emotions.
Mhm.
So even though you trapped them, they were not yours. They didn't originate with you. Now you carry those trapped emotions that you felt. If your mom got scared, if she was really sad, there's a whole list of emotion. I mean, we feel so many things daily, right?
Right. Right.
Now let's talk about how about natural disasters? How
Mhm.
about, I don't know, volcano exploding or an earthquake? Imagine a bunch of people standing outside watching the buildings fall, right? They're not related to one another. They may be family, but I'm talking about a lot of people, like a whole town, or tornado ripping through the town. Everyone experiences the same emotion because it's their reaction to the same event that they're observing. All that panic and all that fear, they all share it. So when you clear the emotion from one person, you clear from everyone. How amazing is that? How
Right.
about your best friend? He comes over. I'm sorry, my nose is itchy today. Your best friend comes over and says, I'm going through a divorce. My wife and I are getting divorced. I am so hurt. Whatever the reason is, he's crying and he's really, really sad.
Mhm.
Now, this is not happening to you, right? This is not happening to you personally, but because it's your best friend and you care for that person, you
Mhm.
absorb that emotion. Okay. So now you walking around with that absorbed emotion or emotions.
Mhm.
And so you have it and you're carrying it with you. You don't know you have it. You don't realize it's not an event that had to do with you. But when we're working together and we identify, at the age of 25, you had an emotion of whatever it was, and it had to do with the male, not family member, and you're gonna think, well, why am I having all these emotions? Well, that's because that's what happened. So that there was another thing. Hold on, I was almost done with my. I'm almost done with my spiel. Hold on. There was that. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, okay. Again, in the emotion code, when we are hurt as children, or not just children, emotionally hurt. I'm talking about, emotionally hurt,
Mhm.
not just children, even, teenagers. You like someone, they don't like you back. And you feel this pain, right? It hurts, right? Your rejection, it
Right.
hurts. Um, so what happens? We build a wall around ourselves. It's called a heart wall. You tell yourself, not consciously, subconsciously, I'm never going to feel that pain again. I'm never going to get rejected like that again. I will never go through this again. And so what happens is now you're an adult and you're successful in everything you do, but you can't maintain or attract healthy relationships that
Mhm.
last more
Okay.
than 6 months. You don't know what you're doing wrong. You're doing your best, but things just don't work out. Well, things that don't work out because you have that wall around yourself, and you never really show anyone true you. Nobody gets to know true Tony because no one gets it because you will never get hurt like that again.
Right.
And also, and I'm not talking about you. You
No,
understand
no.
that?
I mean, but you're pretty much dead on,
I'm
because,
just
like,
saying, I'm just
yeah,
using you
at
as
a
an
very
example. I'm
early
not.
age. Yeah, no, I totally get it because it relates to when I was younger and when I was hurt and violated. I told
Invalid.
myself no one's ever going to hurt me like this again. So the first time I got my heart broken and things like that, I said, no, never
No.
again, right? So
Mhm.
it relates because I made a promise to myself at a very early age that no one was ever going to hurt me ever again.
There
And
you go.
then I convinced myself that these emotions that we had was such a useless thing, and I didn't understand why they were there. Like, I don't need you, right? Only thing I need to do is survive in this world.
Mhm.
And so it's people that surrounded me that I was taught the things that I was already experiencing, that emotions will get you killed, right? And due to the situations that I was in, being detached from people, from my surroundings, allowed me to be more efficient at surviving.
And to survive. And to
Right.
survive. Right.
So that's all I knew when I was young, growing up, is that I have to survive this world, because the world that I live in may not be the same reality that you grew up in, or anyone else, but those that I was surrounded around, that was our reality. Like, we have to survive. If you don't know how to survive, you're going to get killed. You cannot get attached to the people, your so-called homies, right? Because I was in the game for over 20 years. And so I was always taught, hey, you see the person next to you? Yeah, he's your homie, but don't get attached, because tomorrow he may not be here. And you cannot be walking around being an emotional mess, because then you're going to miss something. That's going to be the end of you. So my whole entire life, for the most part, I was taught how to survive in a world. I never knew what it was like to live. I never knew that there was people that didn't have to live like this. I never knew that there was people that was living a life, a good, decent life, where they didn't have these sort of worries and stresses and things like that, because I never ventured out of my element. Right?
I totally understand that.
I never changed the people that I was around. So everything that I did was familiar. And I took those lessons as, hey, this is my life. Not to get attached. Is it lonely? Yes. Because as you said before, I had to put up a wall. If I do not let you inside of my wall, I do not have to worry about you trying to hurt me. So therefore, if you do try to hurt me, you know what I'm saying, and things like that, you cannot take what I do to you personally. Remember, because I can always blame you for the situation that you put yourself into. And there was a sense of no accountability on my end. It wasn't until I got older till I had to learn how to forgive myself and ask for forgiveness for the things that I did not know. Right. But I was taught what I needed. I was given the tools that I needed in order to survive in a world that most people didn't make it in. The generation I grew up in, majority of the people that I knew did die. And it wasn't until later on until I actually understood the grieving process that I had to go through, have patience with myself, the gratitude, and the forgiveness, the appreciation of the journey and the process that I had to go through. But now to learn how to apply it with a more open mind and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I was taught wrong, but I was taught what I needed in the moments that I needed.
Survive. Yes. Did what you had to do with the tools that you had to stay alive. And there's nothing wrong with that. But now that you know better, you understand that all these emotions you're suppressing, they have to go somewhere. They don't disappear just because you don't acknowledge them. They multiply and accumulate, and then they fester. My favorite word, they fester. And you know what they manifest in? Addiction, pain, depression, extreme anger, chronic pain, physical ailments. I could go on. You could have horrible digestive issues because of these trapped emotions. And you never would put two and two together. What does that have to do with anything? Oh, a whole lot. I have pain in my left shoulder that never goes away. It stops me from lifting weights. And I'm not talking about me, I'm just making an example. I've gone to 5 doctors. They can't find anything physical wrong with me.
Right.
Let's see if we could unpack that. Let's see if we could figure out what's causing this pain. Yeah.
See, I totally agree with that. Because believe it or not, a few years ago, I started getting heartburn really, really bad. I've never had heartburn. Been able to, eat whatever I wanted. But I stay pretty clean on the things that I eat, for health reasons. To stay healthy, right? You know what I'm saying? Understanding how the foods that I put in my body affects the way that, the way that I function and feel. So I stay away from a lot of processed foods. I stay away from a lot of going out. I'd rather cook my own foods and things like that. That way I know exactly what's going into it.
And each ingredient. I'm with you. I know what you're talking about. I've been there.
Yeah. Well, fruits and vegetables, right? You even have to be careful about that, and it was some things that I put into play, and maybe just for me as having a better understanding of the fruits and vegetables that I was putting in. I said, if it's not grown from a seed, I will not eat it. So certain bananas, you know what I'm saying? There's all types of bananas out there that and that you sell in the store. And I started, people was like, oh man, these are the best bananas. And I go, how is it grown? They go, what do you mean? I said, because real bananas have seeds in them, right? Because it has to grow from the seed in order to produce the fruit, right?
Oh, we made it in
People
the
were
lab.
all,
Thanks.
like, so I started putting those things in play. I was like, no, those aren't right. And I would find stores that actually sold real bananas. And I would open them up and I would break them and go, this is what a real banana looks like. Or certain vegetables and things like that, So I educated myself on root vegetables, things that were, and I started planting my own vegetables. So therefore I knew where it came from. And, that's just for me. Right. But that was the direction that I went in because I wanted to give myself the best possible outcome from the foods that I put into my body. That comes from being a personal trainer and being an ex-bodybuilder, because you have to be mindful of what you are putting, because it can have an effect of how you look and things like that.
And how you
Now
feel,
is it
and how you feel,
how
and
you
how you
feel,
feel
right?
most importantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does your body respond to it? I think when I finally got out of bodybuilding, my weight had peaked out at 313. And I'm 6'4", 313 pounds. And I realized that what I ate was, you know, was a determination of how I felt. So I like feeling good. I like feeling like I can breathe and walk around at 300 some odd pounds and things like that. So I was like, I had to be mindful of, everything. And now that I'm a little lighter of a weight, I'm no longer 313 pounds because it can be very stressful on your organs
Yes.
and things like that,
It's a
and
lot.
so
It's a lot of pressure.
yeah, a lot of pressure, right? And which can, if you're not careful and you're not meant to carry that much weight, it can have, physical effects on you.
Oh, absolutely.
And cause
Absolutely.
unnecessary health problems, and you may be like, well, I'm healthy, things like that. Yeah, you are healthy, but your body's not meant to be that big unless you are a big individual, right? And there are people that are genetically that way, that are bigger people. There's a guy that I know right now, he's almost 400 pounds, but he's been that big since he was a kid. So naturally, yeah, whereas I'm a naturally skinny person. So for me to put on that much weight, of course, I'm going to react differently, right? So educating myself on those different things was a key factor into the journey of releasing emotions and things like that, because I did educate myself on those things. And I was like, I need to apply this to my day-to-day life, just for me, just for me, right? But also it gave me insight information of how to be a better, effective personal trainer with my clients, because it allowed me the space to give them better information.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which you just reminded me. So what I do is, I work with clients, but I also teach classes at a local library. And a lot of people ask me, why do you do that? And the answer is very simple. Because I want people to have tools at their disposal that they could use when they need them and not have to rely on anybody else to provide that help. Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy when clients schedule sessions and I work with them, no doubt about it. But if someone wakes up at 3 a.m. and they having a panic attack, or they can't sleep, or they're not feeling it themselves, they're not going to be calling me. I want people to have tools. I want people to be able to work on their own and make themselves feel better in the moment, such as tapping. You brought that up, that it's incredible. Okay, you could do this by yourself. When you're alone, you pretty much can't mess it up. The question is, how effective is it? If you don't know what you're doing, you may not be as effective as when you work with somebody who really knows the ins and outs. But it will be effective. It will make you feel better, just maybe not 100%. If you, again, don't know
Right.
what you're doing. How about, okay, so there's a technique that recently made very famous. It's not a new method, but it's been made very famous by Justin Bieber. There's a YouTube video going around about Justin Bieber having a not a panic, but like being very stressed. And there's a technique that reduces that stress. It's called the havening. Okay.
Mm.
It is based specifically on your brain neuroscience, how your brain works. There's no woo-woo in there whatsoever. It is very completely science-based. And what it does is it releases the trauma. It releases the trauma from your brain. So it's no longer encoded. And again, it looks very simple. Yes, when you work with a practitioner, you get much faster results and they're more in depth. But when you really trust, when you're walking or you're driving somewhere where, you're seeing something that stresses you out, you do this. That's all you do.
Yeah.
That's all you do.
Yes.
How simple is this? How simple? Or this? Or, as long as it's palm on palm and you could go as fast as you want or as slow as you want, as hard or light as you want. What you're doing, you're not rubbing your hands. Well, you're rubbing your hands, but you're not rubbing your hands. You send in delta waves to your brain. And delta waves are the, I am not in any danger. I am okay. I could come down. There's no immediate threat to me. I don't need to panic right now. I don't need to run and hide. I am safe. You're telling your brain, I am safe. That's all you're doing. So you have a stressful situation that you need immediate release for. How simple is this? You're waiting online in the supermarket and the line is, 300 people long because everybody's buying their turkeys. And you have one item and nobody's letting you go ahead and I'm just imagining it. And like you're late for something, right? And you're really stressed. We're human. We're not superhuman. We can't control what we feel. We feel what we feel, right?
Yes.
Yes. You have no control over a situation. Or even though I'm really stressed that I'm standing in this long supermarket line, and I'm feeling really, really annoyed, I accept that this is how I feel in this moment. Right. Did I say something outrageous? No. Is it like an unrealistic statement? No. You acknowledging that you're feeling stressed or anxious or whatever it is, and you acknowledging that this is how you feel. That's all it is.
See, I like that. And I think it, when you were talking earlier, even now, it brought me to the concept of being an empath, right? Because I didn't realize this until, and it was something I didn't realize it until I started putting together the breadcrumbs. I can go into places and I can pick up on people's emotions and things like that. But also, like with my son and myself, I had what they like to call a disorder, and it was a sensory processing input disorder, SPID. And simply put, my senses would I can process things a lot faster than the average person. And for the longest time when I was a kid, I never understood that. And there were some things that would trigger me and things like that would give a reaction of aggression and things like that, which I didn't understand. Bright lights, loud noises, busier places. So I always often secluded myself from those situations because I didn't like the way it made me feel, right? And being an introvert, it made it easier for me to isolate myself from people because I didn't understand what I was picking up, different emotions and things like that. And it wasn't until after my mother passed away and I began my grief journey to where, and it was a combination of my parents, my brother and my son, combined with that to where understanding my own emotions and then being around other people and picking up on their emotions, that I can honestly walk into a place and I would feel overwhelming, sadness or along these things, and I would express it, in a physical sense. And I would go, people go, "What's wrong with you?" And I go, "It's not me. This is not me." And I can turn around and pinpoint where it was coming from. And I was able to go to that person and go, "Hey, are you okay?" And they would look at me and go, "Yeah." I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because the closer I get to you, it's like a beacon. But I wouldn't tell them that, but I would go, "Do you mind if I sit with you for a minute?" And it made me very intuitive to the individual that I was around, which I believe makes me more effective in the
Absolutely.
field that I'm in. And so, empath and things like that, the natural way of processing a lot of things now, and then there was something that I learned when my son was younger. And I realized he had the same thing, which is kind of really unnatural for something to be passed down like sensory processing, SPID, to be passed down from parent to child, right? Normally, like, so it's not in hereditary. It really isn't, you know. Um, yeah, so I had it, but I never knew, and so there was things that I did naturally, like lifting weights or, what I'm saying, seclusion and things like that. I just thought it was just part of who I was, and it was, right?
I gotta look it up because you're describing me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, look it up.
Yeah.
It's oftentimes misdiagnosed with ADHD.
I was just diagnosed with ADHD, and I thought that's
and a lot of times the symptoms are very similar, but then
okay.
there's things that will separate you apart from the ADHD diagnosis.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
be careful of that, because a lot of kids or autism, what I'm saying, slight autism, and it's not that. It's a sensory processing input disorder. And once you read upon it, it's going to make sense. You're either going to have it or you don't. And these are the things that make us better. Okay, so here's one of the things that you will realize. You are an excellent teacher, right? You can go in and read a room like nobody's business.
Yes.
Okay, ADHD does what? When you go into a room, you either become overwhelmed with the people that are in there, and then you immediately shut down, right? With sensory processing input disorder, you will go in and you will start to read people left and right like nobody's business without even having a conversation with them.
And then you'll get overwhelmed because you read everyone.
Right, because then now you don't understand where it's coming from.
Yes.
But it's your brain trying to categorize everything that you see, everything that you feel, every object that you come across. You will look at it and go, oh, that chair, here's the measurements. And it comes from nowhere. What I've learned to do with this disorder is allow my brain, I allow my brain to process everything that's going around, and it begins to categorize it. So it's there. And I'm no longer overwhelmed. The bright lights, the movement, and things like that. But I also pay attention to the way my body responds. And I go, you know what? I'm an introvert. I don't have to remind myself that I'm an introvert. I'm reminded of that. And so I know that I have a small window that I can be an extrovert.
Before it gets to be too much. Yeah.
Before it begins to get too much. And then I can retract and go, I need to go and recharge. Or you may find yourself going into a crowded place and you feel drained within the first 10, 15 minutes.
Very
right?
much.
And then you have to go somewhere to help and recharge yourself. So same thing that you're doing about with energy healing.
Yeah.
Think about that. You know what I'm saying? Because look it up. Look it up. It's really, really interesting.
Absolutely. This is fascinating. I never heard of it. Because I do get extremely overwhelmed in crowd places.
Right.
And I've been extremely sensitive to sounds and lights and smells my entire life. Like I don't, and if I prefer to, now that everything's online, I prefer to do all my shopping online, because if I have to go to a store, if I have to go into the mall and go to more than 2 stores, I am so drained.
Exactly.
It's just too much.
So something to take into account, right? And let me know what you find out. Right. Let me know what you find out, and then compare it to those people diagnosed with ADHD, like before you, right? Like, and just compare it. You'll start seeing things that separate you from that category.
I'm gonna do that as soon as we're done, you and I today. I'm just gonna do. Thank you. This is amazing, right, Buster? Yeah, he's
such a handsome young man there. Yeah. Hi. So, Mari, thank you for being on the show and having such an amazing conversation.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
and everything. So I'd love to ask my guests to leave the audience with something. And if you could leave them with something, what would you tell them?
That healing doesn't have to be difficult.
Right.
Healing doesn't have to be difficult. It can be surprisingly straightforward if you just open your mind to alternative possibilities and just try everything once. Just see what sticks. If it doesn't help, don't have to do it again. But what if it does? Because the methods they use, they yield results very, very, very quickly. Like even if you come in with chronic pain, your chronic pain will not go away after one session, but you will feel a difference. There is a tangible shift in whatever your issue is. You always feel something. You feel something shifted. You feel lighter. You feel better. You feel more empowered. Give it a try. What do you have to lose?
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. Now, how can people find you?
So my website is marihelps.com. All the information is there. I always offer free consultations. The first session is $25 just to see if if we want to work with each other and if we're a good fit. My phone number is 718-218-5152. I prefer text because I'm always working. I'm always busy. I respond to texts much faster.
Yes.
And it doesn't even have to be me. See who else is available in your area. See what practitioners are out there. Just do your research. Don't go, to the first person you find. That's all I could say. Do your research.
I like that. And for everyone who is tuned in today, thank you guys for the reactions that you guys are putting up there. And if you enjoy conversations like this, do me a favor. Share this channel with someone that you think that can benefit from these conversations. We have a lot more coming. We have many more amazing guests coming up with a lot of different specialties, and these conversations are going to keep getting better. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, head over to the YouTube channel, give me a subscription, hit that bell notification. So you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode, and we have a lot more coming. So, and you guys are going to see a lot more of MARI. And if you want to get in contact, her information will be down below. Do not hesitate to reach out. If you guys are looking for other support, let me know. We can get you guys connected with some different practitioners, mental health practitioners, things like that. And with that being said, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the love and support that you guys are always giving us. And until next time, you guys have a great day. Keep your head up and take care. Bye-bye. All right.
It still says live.